Thank you for being with us this Saturday morning. Let's start by looking at the proposed tax reform bills. On September 3rd this year, the President transmitted 4 tax reform bills to the National Assembly for consideration following the recommendations of the Presidential Committee on Fiscal and Tax Reforms headed by our own Taiwo Oyedele for the review of existing tax laws. The bills include the Nigeria Tax Bill 2024, which is expected to provide the fiscal framework for taxation in the country, and the Tax Administration Bill, which will provide a clear and concise legal framework for all taxes in the country and reduce disputes. Others are the Nigeria Revenue Service Establishment Bill, which will repeal the Federal Inland Revenue Service Act and establish the Nigeria Revenue Service, and the Joint Revenue Board Establishment Bill, which will create a tax tribunal and tax ombudsman. What is the meaning of all this? That's why we have an expert with us in the studio this morning, in the person of the President of the Chartered Institute of Taxation of Nigeria, Mr. Samuel Agbeluyi.
Good morning. Good morning.
And thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Yes. So, I'm sure you have gone through these various bills that the President has sent.
I have, and I'm still going through.
Good. So, does all this fit into the economic growth objectives of the current administration?
Thank you. I see that absolutely it fits into it. And it will, at the end of the day, it will help in sanitizing the tax space. And if you take a step backward a little bit, precisely under the immediate past administration of President Buhari, the issue has always been revenue. That Nigeria has revenue challenge. We had a situation whereby we are using about 98% of our revenue to service debt. That is a recipe for disaster. No country can survive that. No individual can survive that. So there was a need to work on making sure that we get sufficient revenue. But it will need to first of all get worse before it gets good, kind of. The B will first of all sanitize this tax space, if I can say that. No Nigerian, except those who are not interested in the progress of this country, will be proud of where we are coming from or where we are now. No nation can afford about 65 type of taxes. It's a recipe for disaster. Depending on the state where you go to, all manners of people pursuing you for taxes. And at the end of the day, our tax to GDP ratio did not reflect the number of taxes that are being collected. Meanwhile, countries where lesser number of taxes are collected are getting more tax revenue. So if we must fix the revenue deficiency, we must fix our tax laws. Some of the tax laws are as far back as in the 30s, specifically the Stamp Duty Act as amended. So you can't contemplate those who, it was actually in the ordinance era, and we shouldn't be talking of that at this time around. So putting everything together, and I need to say this, I could see a kind of sequence or logic in what the federal government is doing. The federal government came and President Tinubu said, is not a lover of multiplicity of taxes. I said that before. No Nigerian should be proud of that. Now, it is not about saying that. He set up a committee, and that committee has come up with this report. The report is now in the National Assembly, whereby, first of all, because those of us who are in tax practice, we have always been having a headache of when you have international business people who want to come to Nigeria. One of the first questions they ask you is your tax law. Yeah. What will be their exposure in the next 1 year, in the next 5 years, in the next 10 years, as the case may be. Serious people plan. We don't just think everything will work. So when they put all those into their cash flow, they realize that. So it was difficult for us as tax professionals to advise the international business community as to what to expect in Nigeria. But this is putting an end to that. Certainty of law, certainty of tax administration. That is a major benefit and important, and it is going to rub off because only people who are not sincere benefit from chaotic situation. If you are sincere and something is certain, you don't have the ability to attain it this year or do it this year. You can plan for next year because you know what to expect. So, one, by virtue of these 4 bills, I can say it for a fact that government revenue will go down in the immediate term. So unlike the comment out there that the government is increasing tax, we've explained as an institute, Federal Institute of Taxation of Nigeria has explained and explained, government is not increasing tax. And where there is going to be future increase, what is compensating for that is a lot, and I can explain that in the course of this interview. So I tell you, we have a lot to benefit from this tax, and there's a definition of taxation or taxes by somebody that has so much love, and that tax is what to pay to live in a civilized environment. So if you want to live in a civilized environment, let's get serious about our tax, and let's make sure that it is done for the benefit of the country.
Mr. Agbeluyi, yes, there's been plenty of talk about widening the tax net, that Nigeria will make a lot more money if it does that. What did this committee recommend regarding that?
Okay, thank you. Before the recommendation of the committee, let me say this. What the government is doing by virtue of this bill, like I said before, there is no increase. If anything, there is decrease. So, and I don't think anybody, no matter what, we want to decrease what is getting as income. So, but the government has taken this bold step because rates will be coming down and VAT that will be going up. What is going to compensate for that, and I will explain, is much more than the increase. So now, if you look at what is in it and what the bill intends to achieve, we are looking at bringing more people, because you are decreasing rate and you are giving a lot of exemption. That means your bottom line will go down. So how do you get the required more money? Public expenditure is increasing. Nigeria population is increasing. So how do you do that? I will go into previous policy of the federal government. You see, sometimes in Nigeria we throw away the baby with the bathwater. Governor Soludo of Anambra State, when he was the CBN governor, introduced cashless economy. That was a fantastic program. But of course, we didn't see that through. And for every Nigerian who has traveled outside the country, the moment you start bringing 50, 100 pounds out in UK, they look at you with, where is it coming from? South Africa, the same. Everywhere outside this country, nobody carry cash. Now, the benefit of that is that even the cost of printing money will go down. Cost of cash administration in the country will go down. Then it will bring a lot of people within the formal sector. We'll be talking of the informal sector over the years, and we are not doing enough. So if we follow through the cashless economy, a lot of people will come into the system. Now,
I'm sorry, before you go on, the banks haven't helped in that regard because they charge people for every single thing. So how are you going to tell the mama who has a little tray in front of her house and is selling some little wusi to put her money in the bank? When she'll get charged for putting the money in the bank, they will charge her for the card she's holding, they will charge her for taking it out, they will charge her for VAT, they will charge... I mean, there's so many charges, so the people are discouraged.
Okay, I agree with that. I also suffer that, and I don't like it. But the truth is that that is the reason why one of the reasons why we have government. We have CBN, the regulatory body. Without necessarily going deep into this discussion, it's been said over and over again that don't bring somebody from the bank or the banking sector to head CBN, because the tendency to protect their sector is always there. And we have seen that over the years. Now, I'll move from Governor Soludo to Governor Emefiele. He also came with a Naira redesign. It's just about semantic. It's all about cash reduction in the hand of people. Once that is done, a lot of people will come into the financial space, and the activities will be captured. So, looking at the excess charges, CBN is there, is supposed to do the right thing. Why they are not doing that, we can't explain. But again, because every human activity will sort itself out, the fintech are already sorting out the established bank. The kind of charges you get from the established bank, you don't get from the fintech. We know the established bank are trying to muscle out the fintech, but I think the fintech are doing very well. You open an account with your phone, you get loan. Once you can get your utility bill and your identity across to them, you get loan, and life is getting better for even these people we are talking about. Because I travel, and on the road I buy foodstuffs and the like, and I pay either with my bill transfer. The mama there will give you account to transfer to. If they don't trust that transfer will go through, you get POS. So we need to do a lot in this regard. Now we need to link it to taxation. So once we have the record of many people, and oftentimes we take the informal sector as this mama put, as we call it. Informal sector activities beyond the low earner set of the people. If you go to Computer Village, if you go to Okeari, mama selling butter across the West African line, 4 by 10 by 8 rooms, they do billions of business.
Yes.
But with regard to them as informer, those set of people must come into the system so that they can be captured. Because let me land on this. I can tell you that this bill has taken a very good look on the low income earner in the country. So those are not the people the government is looking out for, but those people who have the means and who are getting benefits from this country. If you are getting benefits from this country, can you give back to the country so that the country can get better?
Okay, you have said that people need to come into the tax system, but there's a lot of trust deficit when it comes to taxation, because people would say, I have been paying my tax, but I can't see the benefit. I can't enjoy the benefit because we do not know how this, the monies collected from taxation is administered. Our roads are still bad. Electricity is still not what it should be. All of those things that are
There's
basic,
no potable water
that Nigerians should enjoy. So how would you encourage Nigerians watching and saying, okay, this is going to be different, or these are the areas you should look out for, and this is what you should ask, your representatives concerning, how the monies that you pay as taxes are being used?
Thank you. I like the phrase trust deficit. As an institute, CITN has been on this. It's part of our major advocacy program. We've been on this for several years. You see, I'm not going to give you my money if I don't trust you. So, and the facts are out there. In West Africa, Nigeria's tax to GDP is not even measuring up with that of Ivory Coast, Ghana, and the likes. That means we don't trust our leaders to give money to them. And we can't overemphasize that. It is important. It's the way to go. In fact, we conducted a research some time ago, and one of the main points that came out as to the reason why there is a low tax compliance in the country is because of this trust deficit. So as we advocate for people to come into the tax net, pay their taxes and the likes. We are also saying the same thing to the government. And oftentimes again, we over-concentrate on the federal government. You are in the news sector, if I can say that. You know what is going on in this country. Some state governors don't stay in their state. You have appealed to people, you have campaigned, you have done everything. You want to be the governor. And the best place for you to stay is Abuja. Some people made Abuja good. And if you are not in Abuja, you are in Dubai. Some people made Dubai good. So we say this, and with all emphasis, that the way we have plundered resources, revenue from oil, we can't go on that trajectory concerning tax revenue. Otherwise, the laws will be there, and people will be circumventing the law. The living standards of our leaders, some of them we agree they were rich before they got to office. But again, that's what you need to give. There is a local saying in the local palace: if you fry groundnut for the blind, you whistle. Because if you are not whistling, the blind will believe sure that something is going on in your mouth. But if you are whistling, the man knows that somebody who is whistling is not eating the groundnut. So we need, it's a fiduciary duty. You need to do a lot in this area. And we expect that to come from federal government and go to the state. We need to hold our leaders accountable. And even the local government. And even the local government, because the structure, if you see the level of advisors, PA to PA, senior assistant to assistant, all manners of structure in the state, that is not helping development. We need to work on this. And as we are discussing the economic stabilization bill, comprising those 4 bills we have mentioned, we need to lay emphasis on this. The law may be good. Sometimes I have sympathies for the revenue staffs, because they collect the money, they are not the ones spending. But taxpayers visit them with their anger, because they are the people they see collecting the money. So our members across the country who are working in the revenue, sometimes we have sympathy for them. They are to explain what they don't know about. So trust deficit is important. It must be addressed.
Okay, let me take us back to the issues of, you had mentioned that there will be some decreased rates.
Yes, Ali.
And then there will be some increase.
Exactly.
Let's speak to, for instance, organizations. In what areas will it be decreased for them? In what areas will it increase? And if it also applies to individuals?
It applies to individual. And I will start from the individual. Before now, minimum wage was 30,000, and that's 360,000 per annum. That minimum wage has moved to 70,000, about 800,000 per annum. So whoever is earning 70,000 is not going to pay any tax, any personal income tax in form of payee. That is not going to happen. That means, but before now, or as we speak, until this bill becomes a law and operational, whoever is earning 70,000 today is still paying taxes to government, to the state government. So that is a major benefit to the individual and a loss to the state. Ironically,
what do you want to take from someone that is collecting 70,000 anyway?
Tax is law. And I'm talking about
I know.
When they were collecting 30, they were still paying taxes.
So now that is a relief for people within that bracket. Now for company, effective from next year, company income tax as we speak is 30%. It's coming down to 27.5%. That is to allow for money to be in the hand of business owners. Now we need to say this. Tax obligation and tax compliance brings about reduction in your cash flow, your working capital. So if you are paying 30%, you are reducing 30% from your 100. You have 70 left. If you are now reducing 27.5, that means it's getting better. That is one thing. Another is the VAT aspect, and I'm very happy about this VAT. Before now, if you import, let's say I want to start business and I bring in machinery. Taxation is economics. So you can't run away from economics when you are discussing taxation. Now, it is important to have equipment, furniture, and the likes to make your company run. And that is where startup becomes very heavy and difficult for businesses. So they spend a whole lot of money, borrow, as the case may be. And you buy this equipment. As we speak, you can't retrieve whatever you spent until possibly 5 years or 6 years, as the case may be. What is happening now is whatever is spent, you get your refund over the years through capital allowance. Depending on the particular item, is subjected to capital allowance calculation, and on a yearly basis, it will be deducted until it is done. That means you have spent, for example, 1 billion this year to make sure that your business can work and start doing well. But that 1 billion you are not going to retrieve fully until 5 years' time, as the case may be. Looking into the implication of time value of money, that is a major damaging practice, and it is not international. So that, which is another benefit of this bill. It's a local thing. So when you tell somebody in the US that you can't retrieve your money, it's what is happening? Yeah. But with this, you will retrieve your money by way of input tax, because input VAT, the VAT is calculated by output, what is sold, and you deduct your cost. So this cost of equipment will be deducted, and it is most likely that you have sold your sales or whatever is 100 million, and you have spent 150 billion or whatever. That means the government will be owing you, and the refund system in this bill has been made simpler. So there are not, I can see a lot of generosity in this bill, provided the government will do the spending or whatever it is their hand where I go back to the trust deficit. So that is another benefit. If, as we speak, if your turnover is 25 million, you are accepted from company income tax and VAT. But that threshold has been moved to 50 million. Meaning that if you are, and that is a small business anyway, if your turnover is 50 million and below, you are not going to pay VAT, you are not going to pay company income tax. That is giving you breathing space. And when you do well, and that is I think that's the culture we need to cultivate. When you do well, you prosper, you have enough money. But we should allow people to do their business, do well, and when they are doing well, then they give their fair share back to the government. So that is another benefit to company and individual.
I'm sure you've seen or you've heard the discussion around the derivation distribution. VAT, you're smiling. That has
the vexatious issue.
Yes, a lot
VAT
of reactions. Could you just explain to us how this works, so that perhaps a lot of people would understand better how it will work? Because I think the current law now states that 15% will go to the federal government, 35% to the 50% to the state, and 35% to the local government.
Okay, thank you. I would rather we don't go to this area of the derivation.
But you know that that's the
I will try.
It's a very important issue, sir.
Yes, but I will avoid the political angle, because we keep on talking about derivation. We keep on talking about sharing, but we also need to bring on board value creation. Value added tax is about value creation, and you add value, the first person has added 2.5 value, it goes to the next person, it's a chain, and that next person adds 150 cover. Before you know it, the final consumer is the one who is going to bear the brunt, and that is why we call it consumption tax. Now, before now, the derivation or state, you pay VAT mostly where your head office is. So we say head office or headquarter effect. And that has been the major challenge that some states don't like. Meanwhile, that people are making comment from whichever side of the divide you belong, I think it's good. Nigeria is not a military environment. You bring it to the table, you don't want people to talk. Over 200 million people will talk. So the comparison that is going on is good for our system. The document will get better after this discussion. Once we have our focus on not truncating the system, but making it better. So now, First Bank of this world, I'll be practical, MTN of this world, and the likes, they have their head office in Lagos. And so it could be recorded. Liber brother, you said to everywhere in the country, and the VAT is charged because the head office, the tax manager, is in Lagos. So it's going to pay to the nearest VAT or FRS office. That is convenient for him. But this bill has anticipated that, because VAT, as I said, is a consumption tax. So if you, and I take our mobile phone, for example, it's possible if I move around the country, VAT arising from my transaction, my phone call in a month could be paid in 4 or 5 states. So it is now by virtue of this, and it is called attribution in the bill. Wherever that consumption takes place, the activity, the transaction will be attributed to that state. So it is the state that will get the benefit, not Lagos. So looking at this program, making it simple, Lagos in the nearest, the immediate term, we get less, because most of these things they are getting because of headquarter effect will go to other states. And what federal government has been getting, or is still getting up to today, 15% will go to be reduced to 10%, while the state will go up. Local government is still remaining at 35%. So that is it. But of the 90% going to the state and the local government, 60% of that is on derivation. And that is where the challenge is. For me, as an institute, we want the political leader to sort themselves out. It's just a segment of the B. You can always agree. You can say, okay, because you can even take other matters, other issues on board and say, okay, because of environmental issues as it is affecting this state, let's consider certain percentage to them. We are together. No state is winning in Nigeria if every other state is not winning. So we must sit down with human face and address that. So we don't have problem. People are talking. People must talk. Okay. So that is good for us.
Quickly, we need to start winding down now. But I need to ask you this question. We spoke earlier about the trust issue. Was there any advice given to government? Because if you recall, when Baba Tunde Raji Fashola was governor of Lagos State, even Okada riders used to ask for where the tax offices were to go and pay their taxes because they saw what their money was doing in the state. Any advice to government as to how to encourage people to pay their taxes? Or are they going to be going around chasing tax evaders all the time?
To get to a point whereby the mandatory nature of taxation will dawn on all of us, including the leaders. For example, there's what you call lifestyle profiling. You want to have wedding for your daughter, and the best place that can happen is Dubai. And it is not just happening, you are sending invitation out and you are giving a ticket to these people. And your tax payment to the government is 100,000, 500, as the case may be. This system will refill it. Activities on your bank account will show. Information technology is helping. So some of those things we think were hidden will come into the open. And the various states will be the most beneficial copy of this bill as we speak.
And we have not discussed the corruption of tax officers, those who are actually supposed to go out and collect, who are busy making deals. If you give me X amount, I'll reduce your tax, your tax burden.
That is a fact. It is not to be denied. But you see, in most cases, like many things happening in the country, people don't report misdeed and wrongdoing. In our institute, we have a panel, investigation panel, and I've been chairman of that panel in the past. Any report that comes to us, we will investigate. And I've seen men, senior people weeping in that panel. The next to it, which I'm currently the chairman, is the disciplinary tribunal, which has the power of high court. So if you see them, report. If you don't report, then we will be damaging the situation further. So we all have responsibility to make the system better.
Okay. Mr. Samuel Agbeluyi, tax professional and president, Chartered Institute of Taxation of Nigeria, who has come to make the tax reform bills clearer to us this morning. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you. Thank you.
We wish you all the best.
Thank you.
Sunrise will return in just a moment with another interesting conversation. Do stay with us.